Hello everyone and welcome to today's STRUMIS Mobility version 3.3 webinar. Today, I'll walk you through the latest updates in Mobility version 3.3, focusing on the changes that make a real difference to day-to-day operations as a fabricator. We'll look at the new features, where they fit into your existing workflows, and what you need to know before upgrading. We'll also cover the version requirements, as some features depend on your STRUMIS and web service versions. By the end of this session, you'll have a clear idea on what's new, how it can benefit your team, and what to check before rolling it out. Fabrication teams depend on having accurate, up-to-date information wherever they're working. Whether you're in the workshop, the office, the yard, or out on site, everyone needs access to the same information. Things like production progress, deliveries, stock, and of course supporting documentation. When information is delayed or still being managed on paper, it slows everything down and creates extra administration work. STRUMIS Mobility helps solve that by letting users capture and access information as the work happens. Version 3.3 builds on those capabilities with a number of enhancements designed to make everyday workflows even more efficient. One of the key additions is View Item Status, giving users a quick way to check an item's inventory, purchase, and sales order information from a single location, making it easier than ever to check stock and find materials on the go. We've also introduced attachments allowing photos and documentation to be added to delivery notes, packages, and containers directly from the app. This helps keep supporting information with the relevant records and reducing the need for separate files or emails. Custom fields have also been expanded across additional workflows, giving businesses greater flexibility to capture information that's specific to their own processes without affecting their established workflows. Locked barcode entry fields has also been included in 3.3, which helps improve data accuracy by preventing manual entry into fields that are intended to be populated by barcode scanning, reducing the risk of errors and supporting more reliable barcode-driven processes. Alongside these new features, the release also includes a number of fixes and performance improvements across production tracking, deliveries, transfers, settings, and barcode-related workflows. Before looking to include these new features in your mobility environment, it's worth covering a few upgrade requirements. Mobility version 3.3 uses an updated framework, which means that there are new minimum operating system requirements. You'll need Android 10 or later, iOS 15 or later, or Windows 10 or later depending on the device you're intending to use. It's also important to remember that the app is only one part of the system. Some new features also depend on your STRUMIS version and your web service version, so simply updating the app doesn't automatically unlock everything. View Item Status requires STRUMIS version 11.2 hotfix 8, together with the web service 3.3 version. Attachments and custom fields require STRUMIS version 11.2 hotfix 5, however, and web service version 3.3. If a feature isn't visible after upgrade, the first step is always to confirm these version dependencies. Ensuring everything is aligned ahead of rollout helps avoid confusion and ensures users can take full advantage of this release from day one. So for the next portion of our webinar, we're going to do a live demonstration of the new functionality held within STRUMIS Mobility version 3.3. To begin with, we're going to look at the delivery mechanism. And in order for us to show this properly, I'm going to do a quick workflow demonstration of adding in some assemblies to a bill of lading and how we can then find our new functionality in the mix of this. So we're going to draw our attention to STRUMIS Evolution to begin with. I have it open on screen here, and you can see, if you look at the ribbon at the top of this contract we have here in the top corner, this has progressed nicely through various different modules in STRUMIS, landing me at production control, which I have open on screen here. And in the assembly work orders, we can see there are a number of assemblies that have made their way to the loading to site process. Puts them in a great position for us to load them to a truck. Now, I can load a ticket directly inside production control, but we're going to do this with mobility today, so I need barcodes. And the nice way to do that, of course, would be utilizing the item barcode label report. I've already run it I have a copy of it right here. These are all of the assemblies that are at that process in production. Now you can find this report in your production reports area. So we could go left and look at production reports, or alternatively, if you want to go for the contract side, you can go to contract reports and look under production, and you'll find it in here. And down here, I've got my item barcode label report variations. And then I've got it pinned under my contract reports for quick access as well, to be fair, so I can get at this at any time I like. It's right there, look. Pinning for quick access is very straightforward. All we would do in that instance is simply use add to my reports, and there you can see it does a remove as well if we click on it. So that just made it a bit quicker for me to load it today. So we need the app as well for us to progress this forward. So let's go ahead and load the app into screen. And we're going to look to the delivery module as a starting point. That's going to present me with the option to look at the delivery elements as well as packages and containers. So we're going to look to a bill of lading to begin with, but we will come back and look at packages and containers in the workflow as well. So I'm going to go to delivery notes as a starting point. And we can see, depending on the location type that we're going to be sending to, we have different types of ticket. I'm going to go for erection site, as we know that's the next step in the work order progression. This is a list of all of the active bills of lading I have in place, as well as some that are in process being built already, perhaps for other jobs, in a pending save position. I'm going to hit plus and create a new one for this job here. You can see there's a little exclamation point on required fields. We're going to go ahead and work our way down through this record to build out our ticket directly in the app. So go to the contract to begin with and pick that out. And then that then means the locations were limited to just the job. And there we are. There's the site location in play. I can put a description in here and call this out as load 1 perhaps. And then I can suggest an employee that might be loading this for me. Again, this is an optional step at this stage here. Delivery date is always nice to add so we can see when it's due on site. Return date won't be required in this instance as we're looking to create a site ticket. Trailer records can also be created. You'd have to build those inside a bill of lading off of the ellipsis button in STRUMIS Evolution. They're then visible to us in the app. And shipping agents again come from STRUMIS Evolution, but they'll come from the supplier records. There's a checkbox in a supplier that suggests it's a shipping agent. If we apply that, then it appears in here in the drop-down menu. Again, another optional step here, we can suggest how many timbers that may have been used while stacking our load onto the trailer. I'm going to create this, and that's going to build that record for me, and we're now presented straight away with our first piece of new functionality. Here are our custom fields for the record. Now, custom fields, if I click on this, opens up a list of bespoke fields designed to allow us to capture extra data outside of what the standard STRUMIS fields provide. So here, these additional fields, we've created them ourselves, and at this time I can simply go through and fill out the fields to suit. So here I've got the load approval that I've created inside the application. We'll have a look inside STRUMIS in just a minute and see where these are coming from. You can see it is a mandatory field, so that's operational inside Mobility as well. And then you can go to load approved by, and I can just put in my initials perhaps here. It's a free type field in this case. I can type whatever I like. Load approval date is going to be a number picker, so I can choose a day when it was approved. And then I have a checkbox option. So all the different types of fields are also visible to us in this area. I'm going to save this. That then locks it in. Now, of course, as we know about mandatory fields, you can't save it unless you've added a value into it. So that's important to note as well. To see where those custom fields are generated, let's quickly just pop back into STRUMIS and let's have a quick look in a bill of lading for a moment here. And I'm just going to pick any old bill of lading that I have accessible to me. And from there, I go to the custom fields area. And here we can see in the custom fields, this is where the values are being put into place. You can see if I go into the define area, this is where I can go ahead and create new custom fields. The majority of the fields are text entry, but there are a few numeric, date and checkbox as well options that we can include as part of this exercise. So for example, if I came into here and created a new field, I would simply type into here, activate it, and then refresh the app and it'll be visible there. So let's just create a new field for this. Let's call our new field paperwork attached. Now I can't put a question mark at the end because of course we have a limit on special characters. You can see that at the bottom down here. I can make it active and then I can make it mandatory as well if I want it to be filled in before the record can be saved. I'm going to OK this. I then see my paperwork attached field created here. You see there, if I try to save this record before I leave it, it's asking me for the mandatory field entries. Now if we go back to the app and we go to custom fields, we can see it's not visible just yet. I need to go and refresh the application first. So I'm going to go back to the home page, just quickly sync the app. And then if I go back to delivery notes, back to the erection site notes, this will be the one that I'm still waiting to fill. And if I go back to my custom fields, I should now see paperwork attached. There's my new field. So I can say into that, yes, and then I can save it. There we go. So if I just pop my barcodes back on screen for a moment here in the background, I'm going to close that bill of lading. I'm not going to save changes to it. Let's go ahead and load our ticket now. So I'm going to utilize my mobile device here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the scanning function. So I'm going to go to scan. And as you can see, as I scan them, the items quantity is going to go up. And here, if we look here, look, you can see the items that we're scanning in are being registered against the application. Now, this can be done offline, away from the internal Wi-Fi connection that we have in place inside the shop. And then when you come back in and get back on the network, you can then do the upload to then add these onto the actual records connected to the server. So there we are. That gives us the opportunity then to be a bit more free roaming with our loading exercise. We aren't tethered to wherever we're stuck to a Wi-Fi connection. We can be outside of that and come back into to process them. So as you can see, that then creates me my ticket. And there we are. You can see we've got green for those that have been added on. So I can progress this some more and I can go through and scan a few more in. Okay, that'll do for now. So we'll upload just to round off the scanning exercise here. So now we have our delivery ticket created. We can look at another piece of new functionality in the form of the attachments to a delivery ticket. So now we can add the attachments directly inside the app, where before we could only add attachments inside the records inside STRUMIS itself. So this now gives us the chance to, whilst in the yard, add images and documentation, for example, straight onto the record without having to leave and go out into main STRUMIS. So let's take a look at the options we have here for attachments. The first one we have is Pick File. That takes me out to the File Explorer inside the device that I have Mobility installed on. In this case, it's an Android device. So I can see recent files first. And from there, I can pick any file format I like to attach onto this record. So I'm going to go in this case for my truck loading list. Happens to be a copy of the outstanding work report from inside STRUMIS, attacked as a loading list. So you can see there it's attached. We can review that by simply clicking on the file, picking the application we wish to load the PDF at on the device, and there would be as my outstanding works report. My next option is looking at existing photo, which goes out to my camera reel on the device. From there I can pick images, for example, this shot here of some members. I can include that. And now we have two attachments on. The third option here is the opportunity to take a photo. So if I'm looking to perhaps record evidence that the load is secure, an image will speak 1,000 words in this case. So we can go take photo, opens up my camera, and then from there we can then snap the shot of the load, hit OK, and we now have the extra image attached, which again, if I just shrink up the add barcode section for a moment here, we can see our three attachments, and I can get at these anytime I like by simply clicking on them, choosing the application to load it, and there's the image of the load. So let's see those attachments against the main record for this job. So if I go up here to my bill of lading search for the contract, I should see there's my site BOL. And if I look here at the attachments, there are my three attachments that I've added. So you can see that we can collect the information on the app. It pulls the data to the records inside STRUMIS, so we can see the attachments connected. It's also worth noting, if we look back to the search grid, the custom fields we mentioned earlier, do show up on the grid here. So of course what this is going to mean is the more that we do this with more records, the more useful information that we've got, and the more data mining that we can do against that information set inside each of our data points. So in this case, this is against a bill of lading. However, we will start to see this come through in packages and containers if we deploy the custom field options that we now have in those areas too, which we'll look at in just a moment. To finish this exercise off, I will also need to generate some paperwork for this particular bill of lading. So in order to do that, I'm going to have a little look at the print option down here. Now, if I had a network printer enabled, I could then print the paperwork directly to it. The network printer options are within the app settings themselves. If I go to printers and reports, I have the option here, to add in my network printers. So of course, when I hit print, it would then print directly to there. In this case, as I don't have one to hand, I'm simply going to go into STRUMIS. I'm going to open up the record for the bill of lading as it's on screen right now anyway, and simply go Actions and Print to generate my paperwork. And there we have it. There's my bill of lading paperwork to send with my load. So you can see here, for those of you who may have spotted, the custom fields I also happen to have mapped on the report as well. Those custom field entries can be mapped to reports such as this to really make use of that extra data. It may be something that we want to use internally. It might be something we want to present to a client. In this case, I happen to need those two elements on my shipping data, so I've included it on the ticket. Now let's see how attachments work with the packages and containers elements. Let's go back to the app and let's go and have a little look back in delivery, and let's this time do a package. So in this instance, it's going to be again for an erection site. I'm going to create a new package. It's going to be for the same job, and therefore the location's the same as well. And I'm just going to call this pallet 1. I can include a package reference if I like as well. There may be a sequential number I want to include on that maybe. And then I can put the dimensions and the weight on for this package as well. So I'm going to put the dimensions for the pallet and the weight for the pallet as well. And the reason for that is because the weight, when we add it onto our bill of lading, will also be included as part of it as well. So I'm just going to put in a 48x40 FMCG. So let's go 48 by 40, and I believe the depth is roughly 6 inches, and then the weight, I think it's about 50 pounds, and I'm going to create that pallet. So that's now a pallet created. What I need to do then is load something onto that pallet, and then I'm going to take the pallet and load it onto the bill of lading. So I'm going to have a quick look. I have already generated a collection of barcodes for some angles. Now those angles, I actually separated them with a bundle in production control to make it easier to print. So in the production control area, what I'd done is I had created a bundle using batch update. So all I did was highlighted some lines, and I just went into the batch update and did batch update assemblies. And really the reason for me doing this with the bundle was just to make it easier to print. So I simply added the ellipsis button here, created palette 1, and then I just used the batch update to update it to palette 1. And that meant that when I went to print off the barcodes for this, if I look at the item barcode label report, we can see here under the contract bundle, I can run it specifically for palette 1. So that's all I've done, just to run those barcodes out to make it easier for me to find them. And now we have our barcodes. We're now going to go back to the app and use them to scan items onto my pallet. So in this instance, we're going to now look at another new feature for STRUMIS Mobility version 3.3, which is the option to utilize a lock to read option on the barcodes. Now, this is toggleable on and off. We're going to see this in action in just a moment. Before I can use it, I need to change the operation process in my settings. So I'm going to go back to Home, back to Settings here, and then under Device, you'll see there's the new option there for lock barcodes to read only. This will really come in handy when we're using things like an infrared gun alongside the app, because it gives the option to either unlock it to edit a barcode or lock it so that it holds as it scans. Now if I change this to operation rather than item barcode, if you leave it an item barcode, it's just going to automatically add the barcode as I scan it, whereas this option in operation allows me the option to then look to the barcode between scans. So if I go back to the package, erection site, and what I mean by look to the barcode, I mean when I scan it, it won't automatically add it to the ticket. I can do things with it at this stage. So if I look here to barcode and I go scan, and I scan my first barcode up here, look. Now that I'm set to operation, I have to hit the plus button to add it into the items area. If I click on this, I can't do anything with it now, but if I unlock it and then I click on it, I've got type options. That's what the locking is going to do. So if I hit the plus, it adds the item in, look. Again, I'll do that a second time. Let's go back to scan another item. And there I've got the unlock to edit, or leave it locked down so it's frozen and I can't do anything with it, and hit the plus, and there we are. So I'm going to upload those items to the pallet. Again, very much like our bill of lading, if we are offline when we're scanning, we can then upload when we get back on the Wi-Fi. That's now created me my package. If I hit OK, we can now look to, again, custom fields for this record type. So here I have a pallet checked by option. I'm going to pop my initials into that and save it. Again, there's no mandatory fields set up for this particular record type there. And again, on the attachments, I have the option to attach from a number of different sources, just like we did on the bill of lading. I'm going to go in this case to pick file, choose a copy of the pallet loading list at this time. So very much like we had with the bill of lading, we've got the opportunity to create attachments in the app now, and they'll add back to the records inside main STRUMIS. And again, we'll just see that if we go back out of here and we have a little look at packages, we can see package 16. Again, pallet check by as a custom fields there, look. And in here, if we go to attachments, there's my attachment, just like we saw with the bill of lading. Again, just like the bill of lading, I can do actions and print to generate the paperwork for that pallet. There we are. And to complete the connection of the pallet to the bill of lading, I'm going to then go back to the bill of lading itself in the app. So let's come out of the package for now. Let's go back to delivery notes, erection site, open up our bill of lading, and then I'm actually going to scan the pallet onto that bill of lading. So I'm going to scan that reference there, and again, very much like we just saw on the package, there's the option for the lock. And now we can see, if we look under items, it's waiting to be uploaded. So when I upload, there we are, that's now added on the package to the delivery data. So if I go back to the bill of lading paperwork and just hit refresh to repull the data, it should then add the package into the report itself. And there we are. And we can see the package weight is also part of this add process, as well as the description for the package that we added as we were building it. To complete our exploration of where attachments and custom fields have been included in the delivery mechanisms for Mobility 3.3, we also need to consider containers as well. So we're going to go to the container records in delivery this time. Again, it's the erection site, exactly the same as it was for the bill of lading and the pallet. We're going to make them all line up in just a minute, and we're going to hit the plus at the bottom to create a new container. Following the fields, we're going to fill out the information for delivery, so it's the same contract in this case. The location, again, limited down to the same. Give it a description. We're going to call this one container 1. The container name could be a reference, so you could put a reference digit in that, and then the seal numbers could be included too. I want to make sure to put this information in because I've got a custom field I'm going to look to in a minute to say I did actually do this. The vessel name you can include if you want to. It's not a mandatory field, but it's always nice to add. So I'm just going to put the ship in there. The sail date and an ETA can be included too, I suppose. So we can put those information points in too. Let's do a long ship time. And then we'll create the reference. And there we go. So now we have a container record ready to add data onto. As I mentioned a minute ago, I have custom fields in this area too, so we can see custom fields are in containers as well as the delivery notes and the pallets too. We're verifying the seal by myself, and you can see I've put in a checkbox for tag data as well. And again, just referring back to what this is all about, it's all about creating extra data in the record that we haven't got somewhere else to store it in there already, perhaps, or there's something very specific or unique to your business you'd like to include as part of the record. And of course, we've got the option to add these fields in as a mix of text fields, numeric, date, and checkbox. So I'm going to save this custom field data. It's worth noting as well, actually, whilst we are in a pending save state, I can't click on attachments. I have to wait until I've saved the record with the upload. So I'm going to add in my bill of lading to this container using the scan option, and I'm going to scan the barcode, add it like we did before. That adds me the item in there, look, and then I can upload to add it to the container. And there we are. That's the new container created. So let's look at the attachments now. We go to the attach area, and once again we can do the same three options. Pick a file from anywhere in the device, look at the camera roll of the existing photos, or take a photo to add it on to the record. So let's start off with pick file. Once again, it's open my recents. I have a container loading list that I've created previously as a PDF. We can add that on. That's attached that file. And then I can go back to attach, and then we can add in existing photos, some images, and there we are. Once again, attachments added in the same way we did with the other two records, but now we've seen it happen at the container level too. So let's go and take a look at the paperwork for the container just to finish it off. So now the container search grid's loaded, we can see the custom fields are there as before. Opening my record container 3, I can see in the attachments, there are my 3 attachments. Also, if we check the contents, we can see there's the bill of lading I scanned on. And to finish this whole process off, let's just generate the paperwork for our shipping container. And there we are. We can see that the delivery note reference. We can even see the content of the package here as well. And it's at this point we're going to now move on to something new as another new enhancement inside Mobility. So I'm going to close everything down with a big close all. And we're going to have another look at the app again. And if we draw our attention to the home screen menu, we can see View Item Status, which is another new feature for us in STRUMIS Mobility version 3.3. If we open this up, it gives us a really useful insight into what's happening with some of the materials that we happen to have around the yard, specifically for jobs, whether they're going to be things that we bought, they're not here yet, they're on order, or perhaps look for outstanding materials on a sales order. We're at that step here where we can utilize the search to look for that information relative to a variety of different barcodes actually from the STRUMIS system, and then we can see these details at the bottom down here. So to start with, we have a unique set of search details up here. It's going to help us look for materials perhaps in a particular location or perhaps in a certain state, such as classification, where here you can see on my database I have damaged and held stock, which in my system are considered to be non-usable elements. So I could look for those perhaps. So I could scan a barcode, specify perhaps a non-usable classification, and then observe materials at that state. I could, of course, go for OK, which means a usable state in my system. I also have the state of the inventory as well as part of the search criteria. So again, I can look for things that perhaps are job specified, so allocated materials perhaps as opposed to free materials. I'm going to keep this open-ended and look for everything when I do my scan here. You may have also spotted in the recent items, there are these codes from previously scanned items. Now, what that's doing is allowing me to pull data from previous searches. So it's storing offline without me having to go looking for it, these recent items. So if I was to perhaps click on one of these recent items, let's take this one right here. And because of the setting I've got enabled, it's not going to do it on operation. So I have to say go. And there we have it. There's some W24x55s pulling the item details in. And then from there at the bottom, you can see the icons have lit up to allow me access into things like my current inventory information. So if we were to click on that, it's showing me 24x55s. We have a total quantity of 10 of those in stock in the current inventory detail. If I was to look at the outstanding purchase orders here, you can see I've got 2 sizes on this particular order, and then if I was to use these arrows at the bottom here, as well as being able to look at the details for those items and those different sizes, I can navigate to different orders as well, look, and shows me information for each of those as I scroll through. And as you can see from the dots, there are quite a few that I have on outstanding orders. If I go back, I also have the outstanding sales orders option here, where I can observe lengths to be satisfied in a sales order. So these need to be picked. So that's just utilizing an existing barcode code that we've had from a previous scan that we can recover and have another look at those details. We also have the opportunity, as I mentioned, to scan a fresh barcode, of course. And again, I mentioned we have a variety of barcode options that we can choose here. I'm going to start off by taking a look perhaps at a scan of an inventory barcode. So if I go and have a little look at the inventory search grid, and from there, let's take a look for W's 24x55. Just like we did a moment ago. And let's look for A992, pop instance mode on so I can get at my inventory barcode labels. And there we are, we've got a grid of steels available. As we can see, they're in different statuses. So if we were to look at the inventory barcode label report and we pull the barcode for this, of course those filters we saw at the top of the app would come in handy to identify potential steals from different statuses if we were using that search criteria. So from there, we're going to go back to the app now. We're going to scan this barcode, and let's just say we're going to use this to identify perhaps alternate steals. So if I do a scan here, scan that barcode, and there we have it. There's our 24x55s, and of course we could use this opportunity then to observe perhaps alternate inventory materials if available. So that's looking at free stock. We can see there in our current inventory information we have 10 bars, 10 available at 20. Again, going back to STRUMIS, we can see that same result in our free stock right here. There's our 10 bars that it's identifying. Now, of course, we don't simply have to use this from an inventory barcode. We have other alternative options as well. Another example might be to use the item details barcode. So if we take a little look in our sections and inventory reports and we look at the item details barcodes, this is a barcode that identifies an item, so then we can observe information relative to that item type. In this case, I'm going to perhaps use a non-steal. Let's say we have stores and we have a shelf edge maybe in the stores identifying what materials that should be in that particular location. I could perhaps look for 3/4 inch washers in my bolt store. And if I run a report for that, it's going to give me a barcode that represents a 3/4 washer from my items library. So there we are. I can again go back to the app for this. And then if we go back to the previous screen, grab the barcode option, scan the barcode for our washers, and go and investigate the item from the library. We can see there a 3/4 inch washer, and in free stock, I have in my current inventory 441. I also know that looking at the outstanding purchase orders environment that we have due in later next month, 500 additional washers due in. So this demonstration really does go to show how useful view item status is in looking at availability and statuses of materials utilizing barcoding processes on the go. Finally, alongside the new functionality, version 3.3 also includes a number of quality improvements across the application. Some of the key customer-facing fixes include the multi-scan settings, which now persist correctly, delivery notes using the units configured in the mobility settings, and transfer item details now display the width and area correctly. We've also resolved an issue affecting check status for completed work order items, along with several web service improvements covering synchronization, progress reporting, and barcode label printing. While these may be smaller enhancements individually, together they improve the consistency, reliability, and overall user experience of the platform. Discover how STRUMIS can help your steel fabrication business save time, reduce costs, and increase productivity. Visit www.strumis.com to find out more.